Good day, gents, and welcome to another episode of Father's Fire. My name's Jody Sedrick, and every week we get together to explore the joys, the challenges, the triumphs, the sorrows, and yes, the fun of being a dad. And I'm telling you guys, these conversations, whether I'm meeting with you one on one or I have a guest, they're all driven with the purpose to help you become a better father, a better husband, ultimately a better man, because we can all do better. We can all learn from each other, from each other's experiences. And I always love your insight, the insight of men that I've interviewed. And it really does help me look at my own life and help me become a better man and ultimately a better father. That is my purpose. And, I love being a dad. If you don't know by now, I mean, there's 190 episodes now, and I love being a dad. And this week I had three experiences that have reiterated the power of being a father in your child's life from being very young all the way to when they've left the home. And this summer, I got to give a shout out to my son, Zayne. He and his girlfriend Hayley, they took the big leap of faith and took the big move down to Oceanside. And that move has been exciting. Judy and I have helped pack them up and get them off and running. And they got over into Oceanside, and things didn't fall into place exactly like they'd hoped. The opening of their store was delayed, and they've just had some challenges. And before they left, it was really fun because I was standing outside of their apartment with them. And I was talking to Zayne and Hayley, and I said, this is such a great opportunity, not only because it's an opportunity for a career, but it's an opportunity for you as a couple to 100% lean into each other, to lean on each other, and to grow together through some challenges that will inevitably come. But that will, if you embrace the refining process of those trials and those tribulations, they will refine your relationship and draw you closer together. And they've just kind of struggled and just trying. Things are falling into place now, which is great. But he called me up, and I had offered to come out and see him a couple weeks earlier. And finally on a Tuesday, he called me and said, "Hey, Dad, I'd really like it if you come out and hang with me." And so that was on a Tuesday. I flew out on a Friday, and I just spent the weekend with him. And it was such a fantastic time. He picked me up at the airport. We came home. He barbecued, cooked up some hamburgers for us, and we just sat outside. We visited. We talked about, his move to San Diego, how much he loved his new apartment, how much he loved where he was, but also kind of frustrated with the way things had fallen out and played out. But he was still working with optimism and trying to see things in the bigger picture and stay true to his vision. But we just had such a fantastic time. And then the next morning we got in and woke up and had breakfast together and just took our time. Zayne is an excellent guitar player. And so I asked him some questions about how to play the guitar, how to learn how to do tabs, because I've been trying to figure it out and I just haven't been able to do it. So it was really fun because he was able to teach me something that he was passionate about and really, really good about. And so we spent, a little bit of time talking about the guitar and playing on it. And then we went surfing together, and we surfed for 4.5, 5 hours, and we just had a fantastic time. And then we came home, went to sushi together, took a nap, just had a nice evening sitting out on his patio looking at the stars. And he's really into astronomy. He has this great little app where he can see where the planets are, and he was showing me and teaching me. And it really made me realize that at every single stage of your child's life, whether they're littles or they've left the nest and they're flying on their own, there's an opportunity for them to teach you something. Sometimes it's just them teaching you how to be more patient, more empathetic, more understanding. But also there's a time where they actually teach you new things that you had never been exposed to or had attempted, like me. I'm now trying to learn how to play the guitar, and he can give me of his experience and, sharing his passion and love for astronomy and sitting out there. And it was such a great opportunity for us to connect. And then Sunday morning, we got a little bit more in-depth discussion about kind of the challenges that he was facing with and options that he could explore. And it was interesting. And this is a lesson for all of us men, because I noticed when we get focused on the minutia, the challenge, the obstacles in front of us, because we were sitting there and he was looking at his little whiteboard and he was seeing all the things that he has to do to get in place. And I could see he was getting a little discouraged. And so we started talking about why he was discouraged and what options he had to maybe get out of that situation. And it was interesting because, and we all do this, man, when we look at the minutia, when we look at the challenge, we have a tendency to get into the negative. And once he started looking at his vision, where he was going, what he was trying to accomplish, all of a sudden he got filled with excitement and optimism, and ideas started to flow. Well, I could do this and do that. And I think that's an important lesson for us men, because a lot of times we get so entrenched in the challenges of life that we lose sight of our vision. We lose sight of the bigger picture of where we're trying to go, either for ourselves and our career, and more importantly, where we're trying to go with our wife and with our kids. And so somehow we have to cling on to that vision that will propel us and push us through the mundane and the drudgery and the challenge of life that hits us inevitably. And that was a really, really important lesson for me. But also, as I spent just another fantastic day, we went and watched a surfer competition and walked up and down the beach of Oceanside and just had fun being with each other, ate street tacos. And it re-emphasized to me the power of you as the dad in your child's life, and no matter what stage they are. I think a lot of times we, especially in America, we have this mindset of, oh, you've turned 18, you're let free, go fly, go, and you're left to yourself. And I think there still needs to be a little bit of tether to home, where your children can have the freedom and the independence to soar and explore and become who they want to become. They can pursue their dream, but also know that they have a safe place to turn to for counsel, for encouragement, for just being together, spending time in the backyard, on the patio, having barbecues, going surfing. There is power in the time that you spend with your kids. My second thing that happened to me this week was I had the great opportunity. My daughter, as you guys know, is a D1 volleyball player for Utah Valley University, and they're kicking off their season. And this week has been their kickoff week as a team. So they've done a lot of fun activities. And one of the final activities is to have a parent dinner. And so the parents are invited to have dinner with the team and with the coach. And the coach talks about the upcoming season. And the kids share about what they did this week. And it's just a really fun time, right? And Kaylani called me and said, hey, Mom and Dad, just want to let you know it's a parent banquet. If you guys can make it, great. If not, don't feel like you have to, because I know, you're in Boise and I'm down in Orem, Utah. And fortunately, I was able to make it happen so that I could fly down the night before, spend the day with the customer, and then spend the evening with my daughter. There's just something powerful about supporting your kids in their dreams. Because as I came home, as my daughter came and picked me up from the airport, she didn't just, actually I drove the train, rode the train down, and then she picked me up. And she didn't just pick me up. It was get out of the car and just put her head on my shoulder and give me a big hug. Man, there is something powerful and important and needful for you to show up, even if it's not that big a deal. It's, Dad, Mom, you don't have to go. It's okay if you don't show up. On those moments where you maybe don't have to show up, it's just as important when you should show up, because it shows that you are invested in their dream, that you are invested in them, that you're invested in their journey. And the one thing that they want more than anything is they want to know that Dad is their biggest fan. And that doesn't mean you have to be like me and put green hairspray in my hair and on my beard. I mean, even though that's who Judy and I are. I mean, we are the biggest fan of our daughter, and we are the biggest fan of our kids. Your kids need to know that you're their biggest fan, whether you're in the home and separated and you have that time with your kids. You need to go all in. Right. And let them know that no matter where you are, whether you're in the home or out of the home or you're on business travel, there's been a lot of times where I've been on business travel and I would call my kids before their event and say, hey, I'm really, really sorry I can't make it. But I wanted to do a FaceTime and let you know that I'm thinking about you, that I love you and I'm here. And I always try to not make that happen, but those times inevitably happen. Right. And so you need to make the effort to be present, to be engaged, to let your kids know that you're behind them. You're pushing them forward. You're rooting them on and saying, you know what? You got this. And I think, too, part of that process is you need to be able to be authentic with your kids. You need to be able to say, and it's like when Kaylani first went down to UVU, I told her, I said, look, you're used to starting. You've always been the starting player. You're coming on as a freshman, coming in early. You're 5'3", and you're going to earn your place on that spot. So be willing to put in the work, be able to embrace the process of going for your dream. Even if you're on the bench or on the court or, you're at practice, wherever you are, make sure that you're all in and don't get discouraged by the process. Because the process not only feeds your hunger, it also forces you to embrace the steps that are required for you to become who you want to be. That's really, really important, because I think a lot of times we as dads, we identify ourselves as what we do, and our kids identify themselves as what they do. But when you start going, all right, what do I really want to be? In the case of my daughter, she says, I want to be a D1 athlete. And she's going through some decisions on whether she should graduate or extend out, get a second major. And I said, what is it that you really want to accomplish in your goals? She goes, well, I haven't really accomplished all my goals yet as a D1 athlete. I go, then embrace the process and figure out what it will be required for you to do that. And be willing, even if it's kind of a challenge to go through that process, be willing to take those steps to become what you're dreaming of, and not just focusing on what you do. Now, the third experience that I had this week was a subtle thing, but it was very, very impactful on my heart. And it made me reflect on the differences that I've been able to build with my family and what other children experience. So this weekend, I flew home from spending time with Kaylani. In fact, I went early specifically so that I would have some time with Cynsha, my other daughter, and her friends to take them wake surfing out at the lake. And so she invited her friends. We all gathered at 3 and drove up to Black Canyon. Some of us met us up there, and then we all met. And we had just a fantastic time of teaching these kids how to wake surf, laughing at them falling, laughing at them struggling, cheering for them succeeding. It was just an amazing experience. Well, a week ago or earlier in the week, we went surfing with me and Cynsha and some of those other friends. And Cynsha loves a little trick that she and I can do, and she can actually do it with Devin as well. And the trick is where we get into the water on a wake surfboard, and she gets on my back, and then we hit it, and we are able to get up on the wave. And then once we get up on the wave and get our stability, she's able to inch by inch crawl up and get on my shoulders first. And then once she's on my shoulders and we have our balance, once again, I put my hand up, she grabs my hand, and then she stands on my shoulders while I'm wake surfing. And it's a pretty cool trick, and it takes a lot of work. I'm telling you guys, a lot of thighs, a lot of core. But it's something unique that she and I do together, and she's really, really proud of it. And she loves to do it with me. And so the 2 boys that went with us, Trey and B, they're like, "Oh, we want to try to do that with you." So they got out there and they tried and they came really close, especially Trey. He came really close to getting up, but they didn't quite have it. And they had brought a girl, and she's like, "What are you talking about?" So I showed her the video of Cynsha and I doing this crazy trick that we do on the wake surfboard. And she goes, "Wow, that is amazing. I can't believe you guys can do that." And then she goes, "I wish I had a dad." And then she said, "Well, I wish I had a dad like you." And that just hit my heart. She goes, "Yeah, my dad wasn't very active in my life. In fact, haven't seen him for a long time. But I do remember one time when we were really little, stacking each other on shoulders, and that was such a good time with my dad." She goes, "But I don't have that. I don't have what Cynsha and you have. And that's cool." And it made me realize, guys, that there are a lot of kids, maybe even your kids, that maybe don't necessarily want a dad like me. They just want a dad that's in their life. They want a dad that's walking with them, that's playing with them, that's teaching them, that's giving them guidance, giving them counsel, giving them the biggest cheering and fan rush of anybody. They're just yearning for us men to be a dad that doesn't have any special skills other than loving their kids. And not only loving their kids, but being active in their life. So, man, I would invite you to look at yourself. Do your kids wish that they had a dad like someone else? Or are they happy with the dad that they have? And it's not too late. It's not too late for you to get re-engaged with your kids. Yes, it's going to take some work. And yes, there's going to be some walls put up. And yes, there's going to be some second guessing. Are you serious? Are you really wanting to be in part of my life? Are you really going to show up for real this time? Are you going to be consistent? Can I rely on what you say? But if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to become, Sean Hart with Involved Dad, it's amazing the work that happens with these men who come and they're trying to reconnect after so many years. A lot of these men just haven't been taught. They've never had anybody to model after of what it means to be a dad. And I talked to a great guy one time, and he said, yeah, he goes, I didn't have a dad in my life. I didn't have a role model. I didn't have somebody to emulate. So what I did, because I didn't have that role model, was I asked myself, what kind of dad would I have liked to have been? And how do I become that dad? And in the process, guess what? I'm becoming that dad. And my relationship with my kids is flourishing. So, man, don't let the excuse of, I didn't have a dad, I didn't have a guy in my life to emulate. You dream of what that dad would have been, and you become that dad. Because the dad that you dreamed of is probably the dad your kids are yearning for, because they see it already in you. And they're just wanting you to be a little bit a part of your life. Just like Zayne said, hey, Dad, can you come spend the weekend with me? Just like my daughter said, yeah, if you guys can come, I'd really like you to come, but you don't have to come. Don't feel like you have to. Or that little girl that says, man, I wish I had a dad. I wish I had a dad like you. Man, we can become that dad. And it only really requires you to be engaged and present in their life. So hopefully these three stories, these three things that I've shared with you will give you something to think about how you can become fully engaged, fully present, fully developing a relationship with your kids that is a tether to them, whether they're at home or far away. They always know that they have a lifeline. They have a resource. They have somebody that they can turn to, that they can rely on, that they can come home to, or ask them to come home to them. Because I'm telling you, man, no matter where you are with your kids, whether you're on the road or you're at home or separated, that moment when you're together is home. So be willing to embrace and build home for your kids and ultimately for yourself. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me this morning. I hope this something touches your heart and it inspires you to become a better father, a better husband. It ignites a fire within you. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we will check you same time, same bad channel, just next week, right here on Father's Fire. See ya!